Well, this year has offered some truly epic fixed blades that we've been able to test out here in the Blade Boot Camp. And in today's video, I'm gonna highlight the 10 best fixed blades that we tested and reviewed this year. And these top 10 cross the whole spectrum. Some are ideal for compact EDC, bushcraft, combat, and others for general utility around camp, as well as 3 of the biggest flops that we tested out this year. And for the first time ever, I have a dilemma on my hands. I have 2 knives that are Scandi ground that are so good, I can't determine for myself which one is best, and I'm gonna need your guys' help in this video to vote to determine which is the best Scandi knife that we tested this year. So if you like to see fixed blades used and abused, you have come to the right place. We are gonna have a blast today. So thanks for hanging with me. I'm Aaron, this is Gideonstactical. Let's dive in. Now our first 2 home runs are combat knives that I feel would be rather capable in the backcountry as well. And as I begin to unpack these tools, if you're familiar with a particular design and you want to skip ahead, there are chapter points below on the timeline so you can hop around and see designs that maybe you're not familiar with. But the kickoff is a blade that was rather anticipated, and it's the Harsey Fighter from Spartan Blades, made for them by K-Bar. So this is a Spartan design, but with the materials that we find on a lot of K-Bars. And they took kind of the idea of what the K-Bar fighting knife is, but changed a little bit with the blade profile, made it completely full tang, and gave it some handle scales, 6 inches overall, and gave us an ambidextrous locking polymer sheath, all made in America, even the sheath. You know, a lot of times we'll find sheaths that are made in Mexico or overseas, and the blades, that everything is made in the USA. Beautiful tool, 1095 Crovan high carbon steel, so nothing to balk at. I paid $125 for this knife. It is a lot of blade for that money, and I think would be ideal for any LBE system with that high flat grind. Nothing needs to be upgraded like a lot of like Becker BK7s and 10s and those type of things. Beautifully contoured, easy to pierce but then pull back, reverse grip. It's gonna give you plenty of traction, but rather comfortable and ergonomic if you're making feather sticks and you're doing some basic woodworking and things like that. So I think a lot of people could have this on an LBE system and then go on a hike on the weekend and use it for both scenarios. And it just hits so many points for me that it's one of the best blades and a great kickoff to this list. And I hope you guys' fingers are ready, because I got a lot of questions for you today, so I look forward to seeing the comments. And my first question for you is, if you had a choice between a stock K-Bar fighting knife, a stock Harsey Fighter, and a stock BK7, and you could only have one, which would you choose? And guys, I'll do my best to have links in the description box below this video to the blades that we're discussing today, to all the affiliate networks I regularly partner with, so that if a design makes sense for you and you either want to bless a loved one and hook them up this holiday season, give it a gift to them, or you want to hook yourself up as you go into the new year for all of your EDC and outdoor adventures that you have planned, those will all be provided below. Now we're going to flip to go to the complete opposite spectrum, not only in materials and price, in a combat blade that we tested out with the Zero Tolerance 0006. Now this knife is made out of CPM 3V steel, 6-inch blade, high flat grind. It is going to be a pretty penny, made here in the USA at about $320 on average. So you're going to definitely pay for that material and that profile. But what was really surprising to me is that the way the blade is shaped is excellent for not only piercing and slashing, but also for a plethora of outdoor tasks. It's extremely well laid out for both and held up with durability very well, and then has that very iconic kind of combat style handle, having straight off the back transitions on the G10 handle scales, a screwed in butt cap, full tang, and then removable guard. We didn't have any rattling or loosening up of that guard, which is really impressive. That can tend to happen with hard abuse on these type of partial, meaning like there are pieces to the tool, which is awesome. And I was really surprised that the ergonomics felt really good in the hand. It gives you a plethora of different grips, an excellent guard to lock you into place for piercing, but also the ability to get over it and do more woodworking. So if you're thinking of a field knife for field work, it does an exceptional job, and I was really blown away by its capabilities. There is a little bit of an Achilles heel. The polymer sheath, though in theory should work out really well for you, and some people have had this issue, mine did, is that it tends to catch and is rather loose, meaning with just a slight jerk, it will disconnect itself, and you may have to do like heat gun work and stuff like that. It is ambidextrous, you can swap it, and if you carry it on your hip, it's fine, but if you're thinking of putting it like on an LBE system, which this would, the tool is set up to work that way, it just doesn't have quite the tension that it needs, and it had some issues trying to go in and out of the sheath. So it's kind of, the sheath is a little bit wonky and a little bit of a letdown in comparison to how epic the blade is. And let me know those of you who like carrying combat knives on your outdoor adventures. And guys, if you enjoy this type of content, I invite you to hit the like button and to consider subscribing, becoming part of the GT crew here. Make sure to hit that bell icon so that you can be notified every week when I put up new videos and gear concepts to help you better stay equipped and prepared for whatever life throws your way. So our first flop is the Gerber Convoy. Now this kind of came out of nowhere this year. I really connected with the design profile. The profile was really good. I was like, yeah, that's a good looking knife. Really had like the thickness, dimension, grind stuff that I look for. What became glaringly obvious were three major issues though, and mainly that the handle ergonomics were bad, very thin, creating lots of hot spots, and then had creaking and moving of the scales, and then on top of that having a type of sheath that really didn't deploy very well. And usually Gerber is really good with their sheaths, but it was just not a super functional sheath, and I did not connect with it. And then finally they chose 440A stainless steel for the steel on that blade, which is just mind-boggling. They went to that steel with a couple designs this year, and it's just, we're in 2023, there are better options for similar overseas produced blades. So it had potential to be a really good budget-friendly blade because it came in like around 50 bucks, but all of those factors going together was just kind of a non-starter. And with better handle ergonomics, better sheath, and some sort of different blade steel, even 8CR or AUS 8 steel would have been a good choice and kept it around the same price. It could have been a winner, but it ended up being a total flop. And I want to take a moment to let you know about today's sponsor of this video, which is LA Police Gear. They've been partnering with me here at the channel for several years as part of our affiliate program, and have been providing excellent gear and equipment for law enforcement, military, first responders, and average Joes just like you and me, going on for over 20 years. And along with those brands that you know and love, LA Police Gear has their own well-established series of gear and apparel, and I want to speak specifically to their new Benchmark series, which focuses a lot on the trades. And I'm actually, while making this video, wearing the Everyday Joe pants, and I have used extensively the Tradesman pants, which have an excellent blend of cotton and spandex, giving you enough flex, and then having different designs, regardless if you want a little bit lower profile pockets for just everyday use, but also heavier layout in not only the pockets, but in the cloth and double kneed areas to give you an extra level of versatility in their Tradesman layouts with excellent features. And they've been holding up really well with a great level of colors as well as sizes. And so I'll have a link in the description box below where you can check out that, as well as all the other gear and equipment that LA Police Gear carries, as well as my exclusive 10% off promo code that you can apply towards your purchase. So check them out. You won't be disappointed in what LA Police Gear has to offer. Now, I know the way this year has gone with inflation and just all the things going on in the world, that sometimes it may not make sense to throw a lot of money after your favorite hobby of edged tools. Well, you can still get some very high performing blades without breaking the bank, and this option is our cheapest of the day and of this list, but it does offer quite a bit, and I was really overall pleased with it. And it's the BPS Knives Savage. Now, if you're not familiar with BPS Knives, they're based out of Ukraine, so these are Ukrainian-made knives, and the sheaths alone could go for 40 bucks. So it's super dense leather, beautifully done, dangler or kind of more of a high ride, great tension, and this is an excellent high value camp knife. And this is with the Savage, made out of 1066 steel. That is a very basic high carbon, rock weld 57 to 59. The edge retention is not going to be anything to, write home about. It's not going to blow your mind away, but it holds up rather well and is very easy to resharpen with a full flat grind, just under 5 inches of blade length, 90-degree spine, and bolted on contoured wood handle scales. Now, there are little nuances. The handles are not finished. It'd be nice for you to probably have to do some sort of oil and treatment on it, or mineral spirit, something like that. There's slight crowning on certain aspects with the tang. If they were a little more flush, that would be ideal. But they're very minute things, particularly for a $40 blade. And yes, I did bend the tip when I did my stress testing, and I did get some flexing to the point where it bent slightly when I hung 50 pounds off of it, but those are extreme cases. And for general utility around the campsite, awesome for food prep, and you're on a tight budget either for yourself or for a loved one, and you want something like this, there's very few options out there that will offer the size, the dimensions, and just like quality sheath and attributes that the Savage and similar BPS tools will hit. So I was super overall impressed with it, and if you're on a tight budget, it is a great option for a camp knife. I'll be very curious of the ratio of you guys. Do you care more about value and are willing to compromise some on blade steel and maybe fit and finish quality control? Or is price not really a factor to you and you care way more about hitting excellent quality control and high performance materials? So if you like carrying a compact fixed blade for your EDC, this next tool is for you. And we actually tested several in that kind of compact fixed blade size range that were all really good, like 8 out of 10s. And it was hard for me to pick like the best. But after I was thinking about it, not only does this tool hit a good price point for this very desirable, wanted new steel, but also has a lot of variety and building options, and just hits so many points for me that it's really ultimately an easy choice with the TJ Schwartz Confidante. If you want a compact fixed blade, start looking here. First is that blade shape. You can see it's just literally like continuous sweep on a very high saber grind with a little drop, so you can really control that tip if you need to on an 1/8 of an inch thick stock, with MagnaCut steel that is expertly heat treated and has a great Rockwell, a little bit higher than some. I believe he was doing, it was definitely 63, 64, it might have been 64, 65. Don't quote me on that. It's one of those two. But so like, where MagnaCut can and should be. And it was one of the first fixed blades offered in MagnaCut in 2023. 90-degree spine. What sets it apart as well is that it's very customizable. You can get different coatings or non-coatings on the blade. You can get G10 or micarta handle scales and lots of color patterns, as well as different options on the bolt collars, as well as the bolt colors themselves. The spine is slightly crowned, feels really good in the hand. It's a slim profile, so it kind of feels like a fixed blade pocket knife. There are other fixed blades out there that will have bigger, fuller handles, but that's kind of the idea, is that it's very concealable, very EDC friendly, but still gives you plenty of grip to be able to do a lot of different tasks. Kydex or leather sheath options. His dad actually does the leather options, and you can get choose between right and left. Just a really nice, very slim profiled setup for either pocket carry or for belt carry. I easily carry this underneath my clothing around town when I want to carry it, and it's, it doesn't print. So all of those factors, and you can, all that customization things, and made in America, coming in, last I checked, around 300 bucks. So compared to other MagnaCut blades of similar profile that oftentimes can go for like $350, it's on the cheaper end with a large variety of not only capability, but options to choose from. And I know this one's gonna cause a lot of controversy, so leave a comment and let me know, do you think that MagnaCut is just hype, or that it's a very well-balanced premium stainless steel? So next up on the list is a company that kind of came out of nowhere and has been blazing a trail ever since their launch. And I had to get my hands on one to see what all the fuss was about. And I'm talking about Montana Knife Company, and I have here the Triumph XL. Now there are two aspects to this blade that caused it to make this list. First is just the layout. This is so crossover capable, and I really can't find a single aspect wrong with the overall layout. Here's why. 5-inch blade overall on a very high transitional saber grind. So there's a little bit of a flat way up here, and then the tip is like a full flat. Full tang construction with a thickness of 0.14, and it is going to weigh in at like 6.5 ounces for the knife with that much reach, and about 8.5 with a superbly built Kydex sheath, including a tension screw and an ambidextrous belt clip, made here in the USA out of 52-100 steel, so that it's very tough and has good edge retention. Not mind-blowing, but good edge retention. And what's so cool with these G10 inlaid kind of feather pattern handle scales, you can get lots of different color combinations. Even though this is designed as a large hunting knife, it is far from just that. And I use this as my dedicated woodworking tool on one of my backpacking trips, and it worked flawlessly. I encourage you, if you're really interested in it, I got some really cool like background videos of how the company got started, which really connected with me. Now, the one thing to consider, I paid $330 for that knife, and I had to wait on a limited run release. So you are going to pay for those knives. And you could argue for the materials, you could definitely find cheaper blades out there. So yes, it's going to cost you, but I've been very impressed, particularly with that Triumph XL in its capabilities, quality, and the company behind the design. And I'd like to know how many of you use your hunting knives for more than just cleaning and processing game. All right, here we are. We've arrived at the crossroads. 2 Scandi knives that are so good for value, to materials, to performance, fit and finish, all the things, and I just can't make up my mind. So you guys are going to help me with the comments determine. These are both excellent in their own right. The first is the Joker Knives Bush Lord with Sleipner steel, and the Brisa Trooper in 80 CRV2 steel. Now, what makes these so good is that they are both full tang pinned in blades for those handle scales. You can get a lot of different options in both wood and micarta with both. They're both gonna have those 2 pins. There you go. So you can just see they're very similar. They're both gonna be Scandi grinds. The main difference is going to be in the blade profiles. We have this nice like spear point on the Joker, and then we have more of like a drop point, almost has like no drop on the Brisa. And then we have a semi-stainless with the Sleipner, and then we have a full high carbon in the 80 CRV2. Between the two, from my experience, Sleipner tends to hold its edge a little longer. 80 CRV2 is tougher. So those are kind of the categories. These are just so good. They're overbuilt Scandis as well. The Trooper coming in at 0.15 and the Joker coming in at 0.16. So they are definitely thicker stocked blades, but they are workhorses in their own right. And throw it out in the comments, how thick is too thick on a blade that has a Scandi grind? If you want an overbuilt tool for woodscraft, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with either one. The Brisa has an okay leather sheath. I believe the Joker leather sheath just has more features, more characteristics, and I just kind of like it a little bit more between the two. The Brisa is made in Finland and will usually go for around like 160 depending on handle variant, and the Joker will go for usually like around 140, give or take, depending on handle variant. So leave a comment below and let me know which one you think is the best, but these both are extremely high performers and would be an excellent choice if you're looking for a Scandi. Now, those are 2 great options for a Scandi knife, but what's the worst Scandi knife we tested this year and our number 2 on the flop list? It's the Mora Ashwood. I don't understand this series of knives, didn't make any sense. I bought the biggest blade in their collection and I paid $280 US for it, and it has basic sandvik steel, similar to what they are, the same formula from my understanding that they use on all of their like $15 knives, $20 knives, and had Ashwood handle scales, which Ashwood is fine, but it's not anything to write home about. Curly birch is like a much more like exotic kind of style of wood. And it just didn't, the series just doesn't make sense. It's just way overpriced for the materials. Probably like $80 to $100 is the max I would ever pay for those knives, personally. and even the ergonomics weren't great. The spine was crowned but not chamfered, so it created kind of some awkwardness with a little bit of hot spots. And honestly, if they'd either just priced it much lower or put flush handle scales and a more premium steel, they wouldn't have been, you know, bad knives, and maybe even made this list depending on what they had done. But as they sit, they are, I wouldn't use them for anything. And I would be very curious to know from you guys, what's your experience? Have any of you bought an Ashwood? And if so, what are your thoughts? Now, next up is an Andrew Demko design. He had two designs that came out this year that are just excellent in their own rights, but they are very different. So it was a hard choice, but I landed on, and what I feel like needs to make this list is the Armiger 4 from Demko Knives, because of the properties to value, what you're getting. And it kind of stands out from a lot of other tools on the market right now. Now, it's made out of 80 CRV2 steel. It's a very tough steel. I really like it. It's a good high carbon. This is a full tank construction with a rubberized handle, tank coming out the back there, 4-inch blade, but very nimble, very quick. I really like the guard situation, very easy for me to choke up, but gives you great comfort and great traction if you needed to use it in more of a self-defense role. And gonna be 5/32 of an inch thick, and it has an ambidextrous polymer sheath that you can disassemble, clean out, do that type of stuff. And it comes in at like 75 bucks. So being able to hit all those price points, material and like design features, but still come in at under $100, I was really, really pleased with. And there's lots of variants as well. So you're not just trapped with like this design. There's like a spear point, there's a tanto, there's serrated, non-serrated. There's lots of variants out there that you can choose from. And what it offers is like a compact utility knife that you could use in self-defense roles, but you can easily use on a day trip into the mountains if you wanted to do a little bit of woodworking. That's not a bushcraft knife, but it definitely is capable in that way. And then obviously, you know, self-defense roles. So all of those things flowing together make this an excellent option if you're looking for this kind of style of do everything knife and you're on a budget and you want it to be rather compact. I'd like to know from you guys, what is your favorite high carbon steel? Now, this next tool sets a precedent that I am very excited for, in a direction for this company that I've never seen and can't wait to see what unfolds in future years. So it's kind of like the forerunner of things to come, but in its own right, has some excellent attributes, and I'm talking about the Cold Steel Republic. And what I really like about this blade is that it is American-made S35 VN steel, full tank construction with micarta screwed on handle scales. There's an awesome secret message underneath these handle scales. Go watch the full review if you want to know more about that. And what is somewhat unique in this size range, because I know what you guys are thinking, well, doesn't it look just like, hold on, we got a 5-inch blade, 4.5-inch cutting edge, 5/32 of an inch thick on a saber grind. So what that means is I prefer this way over the SE4. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I'm not a big fan of the SE4. I feel like the handle is weird and clunky. It just doesn't fit right for the size. And I feel like the 4-inch, it's like 4 1/4, I think, blade on 3/16 of an inch thick full flat grind is just this weird combo. In between a knife like this and the SE4, I just prefer the little bit extra blade length, the saber grind, and the thinner stock. And just overall, my preference in the handle ergonomics. Now, yes, if it was my design, I would not have had a choil on here. The 5-inch blade would have been totally manipulated well enough in just this, but it does have a very functional choil, and it's just on the cusp where a choil could be usable. When you start getting into like 3.5-inch blades, it's like, why is there a choil on that? SU3. Anyway, so, and on top of that, you get an American-made leather sheath that has great form fitting. And with a price point of around 200 to like 225 is what I'm often seeing now, it's actually pretty comparable to a lot of 2023 designs made in America of similar materials. So it's pretty competitive. And what it is doing is setting the precedent and the groundwork, if you will, for more knives to come from Cold Steel that are made in America out of these type of materials with micarta, leather, that we just haven't seen in the past. Usually, you know, there are overseas produced, most of the knives, and we get a lot of like Kydex or polymer Surex stuff, and like Kraton handles or G10. So it's nice to see some of these materials being produced from cold steel, and I can't wait to see what the future holds with designs like this. And leave a comment in the sub 5-inch blade range. Do you like overbuilt robustness, or do you prefer them to be thinner and slicier? Now, I haven't seen a knife fail quite like this one, and it's number 3 on our flop list, and it's the Boker Magnum Hunter HL, I believe is what they call it, series. I picked this up because just kind of on a whim, and for the first few days of use, I was super pumped because it was like under 25 bucks. I think I paid like $22 or something. We had 440C steel, yes, overseas produced, but I was like, okay, that's better than like 440A or like 7CR that we get a lot of the time. And it had good ergonomics. It had this really nice Kydex sheath with a clip, and I mean, I was digging it. I was like, this could be a great kind of budget-friendly option for people who don't want a Mora, great for hunters if they're just on a tight budget. I'm really stoked about this, and then I get to actually using it, and not only did the tip snap right off, so the tip was pretty precise, but it just did not hold up at all. But then when I actually did any sort of like batoning or like kindling splitting, the polymer handle unseated itself from the tang, and showing that not only the polymer density was very poor, but the molding into the tang was like a partial tang was very low quality. And I thought we had moved way past that at this point in time, and it just really basically kind of like fell apart on me. So that was pretty disappointing to see, and could have been a great little budget-friendly hunter or just a companion blade, but really fell short and just kind of like fell apart on itself. Now, we have few knives cooler on this list than this next one that also is extremely capable, and I think it would be one of the coolest designs in my entire collection as of right now. And I'm talking about the GM F4, I think I got that right, from Giant Mouse. Look at that freaking blade. So capable. Very high, basically a full flats. Just, I mean, there's a slight saber transition on a stout full tang construction. Beautiful blade shape, 5.5 inches overall. We've got that choil right there. It locks you in, giving you about 5 inches overall cutting edge, maybe a little bit more, like 5.1. Great belly into like a wicked clip. Very nice, little hits of jimping. I mean, if you're gonna put jimping on a knife, I mean, that right there is how you do that. Super capable, both for piercing, but also like food prep and woods working and carving. Really, the only area where it's not ideal is if you like resting your thumb up on the back spine and really like pushing a lot of pressure. Not ideal for that. Any other task, crushes it. This one has red micarta. There are options that have, I believe, black micarta. You even have like a non-lethal striker back there. I think it would have been better to probably have that flat just for like pommeling purposes, but crown spine that's so ergonomic, made in Italy, two front and back choil. This is a great camp knife that is aggressive and can be used in more piercing tasks if necessary. Very good leather Italian made sheath. Look at that, like that ox blood color. Beautiful tool, all around beautiful. Now, there's a trade-off. This is made in Italy, out of N690 steel, which I have nothing against N690. It's good. It's stainless. It's relatively tough and durable for stainless steel. Not that difficult to put an edge back on it. This knife will cost you around $250. I believe this model is even slightly more. Like the satin version is like $245, and this version I think is like $265. So it floats like right around in there, which is rather steep even for a European-made blade in N690. The design is like out of this world, and all the fit and finish and grind angles and everything, and the super high quality leather sheath are superb. It feels to me, because of the steel choice, more like a $175 to $200 knife, not $250 or even possibly more. So I would love to see some sort of either variant in the future with me, like keep the price pretty similar, but maybe bring up the steel quality just for edge retention and durability's sake, maybe a little bit. Not that N690 is durable, but you get what I'm saying. That we just get a little bit, it feels like you're paying a lot more for the design than you are for the material. So that is something just to kind of weigh, but other than that, it is a gorgeous piece that is extremely high performing for camp work just because of the design and for other tasks as well. And if they were to upgrade this design, leave a comment and let me know what type of steel you would like to see on this blade. Now, it's really hard to land on like a high note. You know, how do you do that with a list with so many epic blades to consider and explore? It's just been wild this year. But I really thought it through, and I was like, well, this is probably, for me, like how I use fixed blades, one of the like ones I will use and return to over and over again throughout the years. And you guys seem to not be able to get enough of it either when I did the full review. And I'm talking about the Ursus 45 from White River Knives. This is an American-based company. Just look at the profile. I mean, those who use knives know, you look at that and you're like, that is a freaking workhorse, and it absolutely is. From the very full, that was one of the big things for me, is like knives of this size range, about 4.5 inches blade length, can tend to have like thin necks and kind of taper and be narrow and have floating issues with your finger. This is just so girthy, feels full in my large size hands. Micarta and so many different options, several color patterns to choose from. 3, bolts hold me in with a very high drop point saber grind on 5/32, so it's not like super overbuilt, but it's not like too thin, so you're really concerned using it hard. You can really put it through paces. 90-degree spine on S35 VN steel, which I've always been really pleased with. It has good wear resistance to match its resharpening capability in the field, and good rust resistance. I've always liked that type of steel. And then the Kydex sheath, if you were to get a custom sheath made for a knife on our list today, looking like this, you'd probably pay $80 to $100 is what you'd probably pay. Kydex, ambidextrous, snap leather dangler, matching fire steel, snaps so beautifully into place. If you were to ask me would I change anything, it'd literally just be to probably have like a tacoed sheath just to kind of get the profile slimmed down slightly. But other than that, it is such a workhorse for me on so many levels, particularly for all of my wilderness and work and outdoor, tasks. Regardless if I'm woods crafting or just doing general utility or food prep, it's going to check so many boxes for me. A little bit on the high end, for some people it's $250. I don't think that's unreasonable. I would say it's in 2023 it's not unreasonable. When it first was launched, it was probably a little high. Now it's pretty like standard for what you get. I know there is a 3V version sometimes that exists that's exclusive. It'd be great to have this as a standard option and then 3V at the same price as like a standard, so people can choose. Do they want something tougher and more in the carbon realm, or do they want something that is a true stainless and prefer that? So that would be something I would love to see coming down the line. But the Ursus 45 from White River tops out this year's list. And finally, what has been your most carried, most used fixed blade this year? Thanks for hanging with me today. I hope that this has scratched your blade addict itch and given you lots of entertainment, but also lots of good data info to help you determine for yourself or a loved one, if you're gifting it to somebody, what your next fixed blade might be. I do invite you to, again, subscribe if you haven't yet, to check out the other video popping up. And until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.